Hey, I am Maya. I'm a 26-year-old corporate girly who barely knows what she is doing with her life, and if I'm being honest with you, I'm angry. I don't always know why, or at whom, but I am. Very angry. There is this constant void inside me, like a pit in my stomach that I can't quite explain. Some days it feels like irritation. Other days it feels like sadness, wearing the mask of anger. From the outside, my life looks normal, though. Almost Instagram perfect. I wake up, get dressed, try to look like the best version of myself, rush to work, answer emails, attend meetings, deliver before deadlines. People call me reliable, responsible, strong. But inside my head, everything feels louder, and everything feels messed up. I replay things people said hours ago, sometimes even days ago. A single text message can change my mood for the entire day. I stay in relationships that give me crumbs of affection. I keep trying to prove my worth to people who barely notice me, and when someone actually treats me well, I get uncomfortable. I start pulling away. Because somewhere deep inside, I don't believe I deserve good people in my life. It's strange. I moved out of my family home. I'm independent now. But sometimes it feels like my personality is still living in that house, still reacting to someone who isn't even in the room anymore. Because the truth is, I am the angry daughter of a narcissistic father.
If you relate to Maya, I want to hug you virtually and tell you something important. It was never your fault. What you might be carrying is something psychologists often refer to as the father wound. Many daughters grow up in homes that look perfectly normal from the outside, sometimes even ideal. A respected father, a peaceful household, a family that looks happy in photographs. But behind closed doors, something feels deeply wrong. Love feels confusing, affection feels conditional, and emotional safety depends on keeping one person calm. The childhood environment. A narcissistic father doesn't always look like a villain. Sometimes he is charismatic, funny, respected in public, the kind of man everyone praises. But inside the home, the atmosphere feels very different. One daughter described it perfectly. The iron-fisted fear of impending aggression or cruelty. Another remembered something very specific. I would hear his truck pulling into the driveway and immediately start feeling anxious. Not because something had already happened, but because something might happen. Children in these homes grow up living in anticipation, watching moods, listening to footsteps, reading facial expressions, trying to predict which version of their father will walk through the door. Walking on eggshells. In many of these homes, there is only space for one person's emotions, the father's. One survivor said it plainly. Only Dad was allowed to be angry. If the daughter became angry, she was disrespectful. If she cried, she was dramatic. If she spoke up, she had an attitude. So she learned something very early. Be quiet, be pleasing, be careful, don't upset him. And slowly, without realizing it, the child becomes what psychologists call hypervigilant, someone who constantly scans the environment for emotional danger. The confusion. But what makes this dynamic even more painful is the public version of the father. One woman said, "He was the fun-loving, goofy dad in public, but behind closed doors he was angry and irritable." So the daughter begins to question herself. If everyone else thinks he's wonderful, maybe the problem is me. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Maybe I'm the difficult one. This kind of confusion can follow someone well into adulthood. Because when you grow up doubting your own perception of reality, you also start doubting your feelings, your instincts, your boundaries, the survival personality. Children are incredibly adaptive. They learn to survive. When love becomes unpredictable, they learn to earn it. They become perfectionists, people pleasers, overachievers, emotionally hyper-aware. trying to keep peace in a house that never truly felt safe. One survivor reflected on this with heartbreaking clarity. We're not lost. We're just covered in self-doubt and self-defense. The child learned to hide, to adapt, to survive. Adult patterns. But survival patterns rarely disappear when childhood ends. They simply transform into personality traits. The daughter who once walked on eggshells at home may now walk on eggshells in relationships. She may attract emotionally unavailable partners, or friends who constantly drain her energy, or workplaces where she feels she must endlessly prove her worth. Not because she wants pain, but because the nervous system recognizes what is familiar, love that must be earned, attention that must be chased, approval that must be proven. Identity loss. Growing up in a narcissistic household can also create something deeper, a loss of identity. One survivor said it simply, "I had no identity of my own." Because so much of childhood was spent trying to stay safe, there was very little space left to discover who you actually were, what you liked, what you felt, what you needed. The awakening healing often begins with a painful realization. Your father's behavior was never a reflection of your worth. Narcissistic parents often see their children as extensions of themselves, not individuals with emotional needs. And when this realization arrives, it brings grief. Grief for the father you needed, grief for the childhood you deserved, but strangely, this grief is also the beginning of freedom. 5 signs you might still be carrying the father wound. You might still be struggling with the father wound if you still strongly relate with Maya. 1. You constantly feel like you have to prove your worth to people. 2. You attract partners who are emotionally unavailable or inconsistent. 3. You struggle to trust kindness when someone treats you well. 4. You overthink small interactions and fear upsetting others. 5. You feel an unexplained void or anger that you can't quite trace back.